Broadcasting live from California, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, not too much has actually happened within Washington this past week. Of course, more hearings happened with Gorsuch. But what I do actually have, and this is the first story that I'm going to talk to you guys about today, it's something about where our tax dollars actually are going. And a new study is actually coming out. It's a 43-page report. And it's showing that there is a massive amount of money that is flowing into not-for-profit Ivy League schools. This includes payments and entitlements, but this actually costs taxpayers more than $41 billion from the fiscal year of 2010 to the fiscal year of 2015. Now, of course, this spending is controversial, as all spending is, because, well, basically these 8 schools, that actually get all of this funding, Brown University, Columbia University, Cornell, Dartmouth, Harvard, the University of Pennsylvania, Princeton, and Yale, well, all of these universities have enormous resources at their fingertips. They have endowment funds, which is basically money that is raised from donors, if you don't know. They have those within 2015 that exceeded $119 billion. So if you actually take that amount of money and you split it up between every single undergraduate student at these Ivy League schools, it comes out to $2 million for each student. This is already an enormous amount of money that they are receiving in donations. They have so much money to use, so much money at their will that they can do anything with, yet they're still receiving $41 billion from the federal government. The study says that another federal perk, the schools pay no tax on investment gains on their endowment. Tax break is estimated at $9.6 billion over the 6 years of this study. Here's a quotation. This is actually from Princeton. It's the vice president and secretary. The tax exemption for endowment earnings allows these institutions to use all of those earnings to support their missions of teaching and research for this generation and for future generations. This means that the universities spend earnings now, but they also reinvest a portion so they can continue to support their programs of teaching and research well into the future. Yale said that rather than being a drain on taxpayers, as obviously the study suggests, the college is a huge financial boom to the towns that surround it. Quote, since 2000, over 50 startups based on Yale inventions and located in New Haven have attracted over $5 billion in investment to New Haven and surrounding towns. This is from Tom Conroy, who is a Yale spokesperson. Alexion, which employs 1,200 people in New Haven, is a prime example of Yale's impact. Now, still, a lot are questioning whether this is a good source of our place to put all of our tax money. And let's actually look at kind of what this is actually going to here. They say that it's going towards some research, to all these different grants for research and stuff. And that is definitely true. We cannot deny the fact that Ivy League schools do some top-notch research. But what actually happens in this is a lot of these studies go into useless studies. There are some good studies, like studies on AIDS and stuff like that. But some are definitely less defensible. They have grants to Ivy League schools that are going to studying college binge drinking, to ethics in Tanzania, and even a study on sex chromosomes in turtles. This is where the tax money is actually going. For every one good actual research project that they're doing, there's 4, 5, 6 other useless research projects that the U.S. government is having them do. This is a blatant misuse of our tax dollars. There is no reason why our tax dollars should be going to funding a study on college student binge drinking. There's no reason why we should be funding that study whatsoever. It's just sad that we continue to have all of these programs that honestly are useless, that don't matter to society, don't matter to our government at all. Ethics in Tanzania. Who cares? That has nothing to do with the United States, nothing to do with what the taxpayers want. It just doesn't make sense, but that's not all that this report actually brought forth. It also dives into some of the big bucks that is actually being paid to Ivy League employees. It shows that more than $62 billion in salaries were paid, with benefits and reportable compensation to faculty, staff, and other employees. Now, this is also from 2010 to 2014. And it names 4 employees who made more than $20 million and 3 who made more than $13 million. And this is all from the money from the grants and stuff that is going to the universities. That is crazy. These people are becoming rich based off of grants from our taxpayer dollars. This is something that shouldn't be happening, folks. This is something that, whether you're even on the left or the right, you can agree on doesn't need to be going towards. We don't need to be paying $20 million salary to this person through taxpayer dollars. We don't need to be funding these useless studies. There's so much out of this that we can cut. And I'm glad that this report actually came out right about now, because we do know that the Trump administration is now planning to actually actually cut down on a lot of taxes as their next big project. Obviously, healthcare was a huge flop for the Trump administration and for Paul Ryan in specific. But they have said that they're going to be moving on to taxes now. And that's something that we're desperately in need of. The taxation in this country has increased so much. It's just unacceptable. And it's increasing the taxes for stuff like this, for useless programs and useless grants that the taxpayers shouldn't be funding, that the government shouldn't be funding at all. This is something that the universities themselves can fund without $119 billion in endowments that they get. This is something that they can fund themselves. Yes, there's some studies, some research projects that the U.S. government needs help on, and those are fine. Those are the important ones. But ethics in Tanzania and finding the sex chromosomes within turtles, that is not important for the government to be funding. And quite honestly, I don't see why any university would research that in the first place. Neither of those are even important to the world that we live in. They're just useless research projects that waste taxpayer dollars and essentially just put the burden back onto the people. Folks, we are $19.8 trillion in debt as a nation. Now, you might notice that number actually has gone down because of Donald Trump already, but it is still up in 19 trillion. That is crazy. We can't be spending our money on useless things such as this. We can't be spending our money on programs that have no good effect and, quite honestly, have no reason to exist. Our money is very limited, and we can't fund any research projects that we ever want if we're in bankruptcy court, folks. We have gone down and down and down into debt. Over $10 trillion was added by the previous administration. It's something, and by the way, this program was greatly increased, the funding was, by the Obama administration. This is something that needs to be changed, and it has to be changed sooner rather than later, because this is just unacceptable, and it is more of a burden on the taxpayer that just does not need to exist. All right, that's really all for that taxation part, but it just really surprised me when I read that, when I looked into that study, because that is something that just you wouldn't think would happen, being that wasteful of spending money right there. You just wouldn't think that sort of program would exist, but sadly it does. But now moving into more immigration, it's obviously a hot topic, and it has been for over a year. A Massachusetts state lawmaker actually put on their social media to warn illegal immigrations of a rumored Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, raid that was going to maybe be happening. This is State Representative Michelle Jaboy. She's obviously a Democrat, and she posted this on Facebook, but later did delete it after a huge amount of backlash. She defended her decision to send out the warning on Tuesday for illegal immigrants about that rumored federal raid in the town of Brockton. Her Facebook post said, quote, if you are undocumented, don't go out onto the street. If there is a knock on the door of your house and you don't know who it is, don't open the door. I ask you to be careful. ICE officials have called her post reckless as well as misinformed, and they also had no plan of actually doing a sweep within that city of Brockton. An ICE spokesperson, Sean Newdower, told Fox News this, quote, for operational security reasons, ICE does not release information regarding future operations. ICE does not conduct random sweeps, checkpoints, or raids that target aliens indiscriminately. All ICE operations are targeted based on investigative leads. Any person who now this isn't the quotation anymore, but any person who actively incites panic or fear of law enforcement is doing a disservice to the community. Now, this isn't an actual quotation from the spokesman, but more of the message that they were sending now. They said that they were a disservice to the community, endangering public safety, and the very people they claim to support and represent, they are hurting. Dubois defended the social media message as a service to her constituents. Quote, here's what Dubois actually told reporters, Quote, passing information along that is already all over the community not only lets the people I represent know what is happening, it lets ICE know that everyone in Brockton is aware of their intended raid, if there was one. She added that she did not first try to check with ICE about this rumored sweep before posting the warning. Quote, my comments were responding to a population who are already fearful of police. Maybe ICE should be more open about their plans. They should call me. So she's trying to make this into a joke. They should call me about their plans. Check with me before they do any raids. Bristol County Sheriff Thomas Hodgkin testified Tuesday before the House Subcommittee on Illegal Immigration, and he said that Dubois may have violated federal law and should step down from her position. And furthermore, groups that actually provide guidance and other services to immigrants had mixed feelings about this post. Some called it detrimental, and others are still praising her for it. Eva Malona, who is the executive director of a Boston-based umbrella organization. Now, this is important because this is the largest organization within New England that serves immigrants and refugees. They said that Dubois' actions were irresponsible and only served to intensify the anxiety among immigrants over tougher enforcement. Quote, we have to be very careful not to spread rumors and put statements online when the sources are unknown. It adds to what already is a high level of anxiety. We advise people to learn about their rights, to get the information they need, and what they need to do if they have citizen kids. They said that while Dubois' intentions may have been to help these illegals, her Facebook post was short-sighted and counterproductive. Now, Malona, who said that she also received calls on Tuesday from Brockton immigrants, and of course community leaders concerned about that ICE sweep, said that many in the immigrant community vividly recall a 2007 sweep in New Bedford, Massachusetts. Now, this is when ICE actually went in and apprehended 361 illegal, or not all of them were illegal, but 361 workers, and about 60 of the workers weren't actually illegal, and they were released. But 301 workers were illegal, And these immigrants supposedly actually remember that, these illegal immigrants. And so when Du Bois posted this warning, that's what they were thinking of, when there wasn't even an ICE raid planned in the first place. But think of how detrimental this could be if there was actually an ICE raid that was planned in this city. A state lawmaker shouldn't be completely unfoiling the plans of a federal agency here to enforce the law. That's not what should be happening. And I do believe that she did break a federal law. I don't know the exact law, but I do believe she did break the federal law here. She should step down, I believe, because this is just, quite honestly, she shouldn't be in the public eye, in public office, when she is actively working against the federal laws of this country. Anyone who is trying to completely ruin the plans of ICE, they are actively trying to foil those plans, and they are not following the law. They should not be representing governments. And that's just a fact. They shouldn't be representing governments if they are intending to break a law, if they are breaking law, as this may be, or if they're helping people who are breaking the law get away with it. If they are warning illegals about an incoming raid by ICE, that is helping those illegals commit a crime. And that is not something that should be allowed with our governmental officials. It's not something that should be accepted as normal, and people on the left are praising this. People on the left are saying that she did the right thing, mostly. And that's kind of just, it's sad that our country has come to this point. To the point where they will defend people who are actively breaking the law, who broke the law to be here illegally, who broke the law instead of actually just coming here through the legal route that thousands of immigrants do every single year. They can't take that legal process, but now the left is going to protect them. The left thinks that these people deserve to be protected. But that's not what should be happening. We should be deporting these people who are a burden on our society. Because, yeah, maybe some of them do have good intentions. But they are here and most of them are draining our system. They come here and they can get unemployment. They can get all of these benefits. In fact, if you say that you're a migrant farm worker, you get unemployment right then and there. That's what happens. But they aren't actually paying into the system. They get these benefits, but they don't have to pay into it. The sales tax doesn't matter. That's not enough for them to ever make up what they're taking out. Because that's what a lot of liberals argue. They argue that they pay sales tax. So that's all right. But they don't pay income tax. They don't pay the payroll tax. They don't pay any of these different taxes that add on and on and on and put a burden on the legal U.S. citizens. Instead, they get away with it. They drain our system. They take our taxpayer dollars and benefits. And then they act like they're the ones being attacked here because they're not doing anything wrong. Like they haven't broken any laws, that they haven't actively drained our system. These illegal immigrants have completely taken advantage of our system. And ICE is only trying to enforce our current laws. ICE is only trying to protect this nation. And while Donald Trump didn't say it the most political way, the most politically correct way, he was right when he said a lot of drug dealers come across the southern border illegally. A lot of murderers come across. A lot of rapists come across. These people come here illegally. And while Donald Trump said it in a very bad way that was attacked by the media, he was definitely correct in that statement. There are so many people that cross this border illegally that are already criminals, already dealing drugs, already have killed people, already violated women like that. And we're just letting them roam freely into our nation. These Democrats who continue to try to stop ICE are just helping those criminals. And I don't see how anyone can defend that point. How can they defend the fact that they want to stop ICE raids? And now an actual study is coming out that New York and California are leading the latest feds list of locales not cooperating with ICE. I'll get all the details of that to you guys after this quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Have you ever wanted to stand up to your liberal professor? Have you ever wanted to help expand the conservative movement? Well, it sounds like you would be a perfect fit for Youth Revolt. Youth Revolt is a team of dedicated young conservatives fighting liberal indoctrination within our school system. If you're interested in being a part of this team by being a columnist or even hosting your own radio show, go ahead and click the Join Now tab at the top of youthrevolt.org. You'll be asked to answer a few questions, and a Youth Revolt team member will respond to you quickly. Be a part of something bigger than you. Be a part of Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
My friends, I'm going to be blunt with you. There are a lot of frauds out there today. People who claim to be conservatives and yet, in one way or another, believe that more government is the solution to our problems. That's not what conservatism is about, and even more than that, that's not what our Constitution is about. I'm Jason Veely, a recent college grad who has the guts to say what needs to be said without pulling any punches. On my radio show, you can expect 100% pure conservatism every single weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Join me as we discuss history, liberty, and conservative philosophy in a style that is just as entertaining as it is educational. Who says we can't have fun tearing down the liberal establishment? Tune in to the Jason Veely Program live every weeknight at 7 o'clock on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I am your host, Connor Wise, and as promised, more details on that ICE report talking about New York and California, basically turning down the feds when it comes to immigration raids and stuff like that. So New York City and various communities within California turned down many requests from Federal Immigration and Customs, ICE, 20 times in one recent week. This is leading the latest report from the Trump administration meant to spotlight the lack of cooperation from these so-called sanctuary cities. The Department of Homeland Security released its second weekly declined detainer outcome report on Wednesday, following through on a January executive order from Donald Trump. The latest order, covering the week of February 4th to 10th, came just days after Attorney General Jeff Sessions threatened to cut funding for sanctuary cities that don't comply with federal immigration law. Quote, "Such policies cannot continue. They make our nation less safe by putting dangerous criminals back on the street." That is from Attorney General Jeff Sessions. On Monday, he again said that they do make our nation less safe. But then during this week, or the week covered in the latest report, ICE issued 2,825 detainers throughout the entire U.S., and a total of 47 of these were declined. New York City, which received 73 requests, turned down 12. ICE issues detainers to let federal, state, and local law enforcement agents know it wants them to hold certain illegal immigrants in custody until it can come get them. The subjects could be individuals who have come into contact with law enforcement, either detained, arrested, or convicted of crimes. ICE generally asks that they be held for up to 48 hours until they can send agents. While not technically a term, sanctuary cities definitely have refused to work with immigration for agents time after time. And by federal law, we all know that they are required to inform the feds when they have an illegal immigrant in custody, even if he or she has not been convicted of a crime. And of course, they do sometimes cooperate with ICE, as we did see that New York City did accept a few of those detainer requests, but they definitely do deny a lot of them, and that is dangerous. In the latest report, examples of subject ICE sought and could not get included people suspected, charged, or convicted of drug possession, domestic violence, and assault. Although cities and counties in New York and California accounted for nearly half of the refusals, communities in Colorado, Florida, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Mexico, Texas, Virginia, Washington, and even in the District of Columbia, they also made the list. The new report also highlights jurisdictions that have recently declared themselves sanctuary cities since January. Baltimore, Tulare, California, Ithaca, New York, Travis County, Texas, Iowa City, Iowa, and Boulder, Colorado. All of these have publicly announced their intentions to not honor ICE detainers since January. The report noted that ICE field offices have been instructed to continue issuing detainers on all removable aliens in law enforcement custody, regardless of prior non-cooperation. And as a result, the report states that number of issued detainers will increase over the next several reporting periods, because they're just going to continue to actually issue these detainers, even in these sanctuary cities, where they know there's so many illegal immigrants being taken into custody for whatever reason. And I've talked about sanctuary cities quite a bit on this show. Week after week, I talk about something that they did, something that they denied. It's something that really comes up a lot. And I've definitely shared my thoughts with them a lot. And it's a subject that I'm fairly passionate on, illegal immigration. This is something that has definitely plagued our nation. I mean, it's something that even Bill Clinton, back in the early 90s, said that we had to combat. This is something that George W. Bush made a main focus of his presidency. This is something that even President Obama deported many immigrants, but of course, he also passed unconstitutional amnesty executive orders to try and counteract those deportations. So we've seen that illegal immigration has actually been a forefront topic in America for decades. It's just become one of the main topics, basically, in this past election cycle, and that, of course, came up with Donald Trump. But we can see that this has been an issue within our nation for so very long. This has been an issue that hasn't been solved because no real solution has been offered, really. People have said, we need to do this, we need to do that, but they never actually propose the legislation. They never actually write up a bill and propose it to Congress. That hasn't really happened for much. And so we've seen this illegal immigration problem continue. We've seen it increase over the past decade or so. And now we have cities across the entire nation refusing to detain these illegal immigrants, refusing to allow ICE to come in and detain these illegal immigrants. Because for some reason, and this is something that I'll never understand, the liberals within this country somehow got it into their mind that breaking the law is okay. They somehow got it into their mind that because these are illegal immigrants, and there's immigrant in the title, that they didn't do anything wrong. That we don't need a border on the south because we don't need to protect this nation whatsoever. I'll never understand where the liberals get that idea from, where they ever started thinking that illegal immigration was a good thing. Because some of the greatest nations in the world, including our own, Australia as well, many nations, Canada, which is one of the very liberal countries within this entire world, they're very liberal. They have very strict immigration. Australia, you have to prove that you're going to actually contribute to society before you can immigrate there. The same thing happens in Canada. You have to prove that you're going to be a benefit to the country. That's how it should be here. You have to prove that you're a benefit to this country so that you can actually immigrate. That's something that should be happening. Or at least securing the border. At the very least, securing the border. This is something that, even in the most liberal nations of the world, they don't think that illegal immigration is okay. So I don't understand where these liberals within our nation have gotten that notion. Where they have gotten the idea that we should allow these people to continue to break the law. It is unlike any other idea that we see in the entire world. And it is just another bit of these liberals that is just deluded and deranged, another idea of them that just doesn't coincide with reality. Time after time, we see their ideology does not line up with the reality of the world, but rather with some fantasy where rainbows and unicorns are happening everywhere, and that everyone loves everyone and there's no crime. Because their ideology is based upon a perfect world. Conservative ideology is based upon the real world. And that's the key difference. That is why we know that we have to secure the border, that we know we have to deport these illegal immigrants, that we have to stop this crime. Because we don't live in a perfect world. But if we do that, it'll become a little more perfect. We know that reality is a little messed up sometimes. We know that we're going to have to do things that in a perfect world, you wouldn't even have to think of. But that happens in reality. That happens in the real world. But according to liberal ideology, that shouldn't happen. That doesn't need to happen. Because they live in their own fantasy where none of that ever needs to happen, that none of that is even necessary. Sadly, that's not the reality, though. That's not the real world. And they need to just take a look around, open up their ears, open up their eyes, stop watching CNN, and realize that they aren't looking at the real world, that they aren't looking at what's actually happening in this world. Because currently we have illegal immigrants coming across here and raping people like we just saw at that high school last week. We have people coming up here and murdering our citizens like we saw with Kate Steinle and countless other victims of illegal immigrants coming here and breaking even more laws. That is reality, folks. That is what is actually happening. And there is a reason why we are going to actually, the Trump administration is going to defund these sanctuary cities. Because they are putting more dangerous people back out onto the streets. These people that could break even more laws that are already breaking laws. They are a detriment to this society, and deporting them would help our nation as a whole. And speaking of Washington and the Trump administration, we see that this whole Russian investigation has definitely become a big issue, or at least the liberal media has made it a big issue. Well, now leaders of the Senate intelligence community, they just announced this today. They said that they're expanding their investigation of Russia's interference into the U.S. presidential campaign and beyond, and they vowed to remain independent and to, quote, get to the bottom of this. Of course, amid mounting controversy over the similar probe that is going on in the House. The senators announced that they are now scheduling interviews and reviewing thousands of sensitive documents and are prepared to issue subpoenas if necessary. Quote, this investigation scope will go wherever the intelligence leads it. Chairman Richard Burr, a Republican from North Carolina, said that, and he was alongside his top panel Democrat, Senator Mark Warner, who is a Democrat from Virginia. The committee is set to hold its first public hearing on the Russia issue on Thursday, so tomorrow, and this is a session that will feature several foreign policy experts. But on the sideline, Burr and Warner revealed new details about the scope of their investigation. They said that they've devoted 7 professional staff members to this investigation, and they're going through a, quote, unprecedented amount of documents. They continue to say that they are reviewing thousands of raw intelligence and other products. Further, he said that the committee this week began to schedule its first interviews. You might have seen the notification about this one. They did confirm that Jared Kushner, President Trump's son-in-law, and also a senior advisor for his administration, is among those who will interview, and that is among 20 other requests so far, and 5 are already scheduled, by the way. Their joint press conference marked a stark contrast in what we've actually seen in these investigations, where it's Republicans saying that nothing happened, and then Democrats saying that we need to basically impeach Donald Trump. So it seems like these people are going to actually be keeping a level head in this whole issue, and actually figuring out whether there is any evidence when, we don't really see any evidence currently. The House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, of course, riled Democrats last week after he learned that Trump transition team communications were incidentally collected. I covered that on my show last week. If you want to actually hear about that, just go to last week's episode. You can catch it. It was towards the middle of the actual episode. But those, of course, clashed with what FBI Director James Comey said, and the same to that actual same committee, that they actually had no evidence of that. So Democrats definitely voiced concern about Nunes, saying that he was too closely tied to Donald Trump. And the top committee, Democrat Adam Schiff, and others are now calling for Nunes to recuse himself from the Russia probe in the House, after it emerged that they viewed secret information on White House grounds. Of course, Nunes has rejected those calls and defended his actions, and he says he's going to stay on that committee in the House investigation. Just today, Burr was asked whether he can pledge impartiality given his history as a Trump campaign advisor. The senator said that he absolutely could, and he disclosed that he voted for Trump, but suggested that would not affect the investigation. He acknowledged the big challenge for the committee is now looking at whether Trump was involved in Russia's meddling. While Trump's associates are definitely under scrutiny for past contacts with Russian officials, the White House and its allies still insist that Obama officials improperly snooped on the Trump associates leading up to the inauguration, and that's how they got all that information on the Trump associates in the first place. So definitely this is kind of like in a circle of who was worse. Of course, we saw that Jeff Sessions did contact Russian ambassadors, but that was in meetings scheduled by the Obama administration. So that was just a non-issue, even though the left loved to blow it out of proportion. Of course, Flynn resigned because of the different allegations that came out over his connections with Russia. It seems like the Democrats are really just going all in on this Russia idea, even though there has not been evidence so far of actual hacking in the election or actual Donald Trump working with Russia. Because, folks, that didn't happen. Russia did not change one single vote. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence of Russia and Donald Trump working together to change the election. There's no evidence whatsoever. And while I do think it's good that we finally have level-headedness in an investigation about this issue, I don't think it is necessary to look into this any further. I don't believe that there even is any issue at hand. Yeah, Russia did try to issue a few news stories that were biased in their way. Of course they're going to do that. So this whole issue is just something that the left is going to continue to hammer in because they think it's their only chance of actually, stopping the Trump administration. They've definitely done a lot to try and stall it, to try and hold it off, but this is their biggest chance, they believe, to stop the Trump administration in its tracks. And they are going full force into this whole plan of Russia hacked the election. Donald Trump is a part of Russia. Donald Trump is a Russian spy. I've heard that one. They're definitely all in on these outrageous notions, and they're not going to stop anytime soon. All right, I'm going to take one last quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show. Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How haven't all of these protesters realized that they are the exact reason why Donald Trump was elected in the first place? How haven't they realized that them being crybabies about every single thing in life is exactly why the American people rose up and voted for Donald Trump? They are the whole reason that they have all this misery currently.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Get out of here, you idiot. Sorry about that, folks. Jason Veely here, host of the Jason Veely program. I'm a 22-year-old conservative who is fired up and ticked off at the direction the progressive left have taken this country. Join me every weeknight at 7 o'clock as we promote liberty, advance conservative principle, and work to restore the Constitution of the United States. I can get loud and I can get passionate. How can we afford not to when so much is on the line? Tune in to the Jason Veely program, live every weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to youthrevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to youthrevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear. Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's PRAGER, the letter U.com. PragerU.com.
Love Trumping Hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt. Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I am your host once again, Connor Wise. So when you actually were a kid, do you ever remember going out back or even at the playground, picking up a stick and pretending it was a gun? I definitely do. I remember playing with my brother and doing that. It's something that kids across the nation and across the entire world have been doing for a very long time. But now a kindergartner was suspended for playing with a stick and pretending that it was a gun. Caitlin Miller and several of her classmates were playing make-believe, and this was last week on a playground at McLaughlin Elementary School in North Carolina. One of her friends was pretending to be a queen, and another was pretending to be a princess. Caitlin was their protector, and in order to protect these royals, she armed herself with a stick that resembled a gun. Now, within a matter of minutes, the 5-year-old was snatched up by a teacher and sent to the principal's office, accused of a heinous offense. She was then promptly suspended for 1 day for, quote, turning a stick into a gun and threatening to shoot and kill other students. Brandy Miller, Caitlin's mother, says that she was floored by this punishment. Quote, "The assistant principal told me Caitlin had a stick and she was using it to shoot and kill other students." The folks who actually run Hoke County, which is the county this is in, schools, they basically believe, from what it seems, that a stick can actually fire projectiles like a bullet instead of, just being a stick. Quote, "Any student engaging in such behavior will be removed from the classroom or school environment for as long as is necessary to provide a safe and order environment for learning." That is what the school district told television station WTVD. Quote, "The school was really bothered because Caitlin was not worried about what she did." This is the mother again. And of course, that's because Caitlin didn't actually have a gun, but rather a stick. And she was understanding something that these liberals within the education system couldn't understand. That she was just holding a stick. That there wasn't anything wrong here. The mom went on to say, quote, "We are a military family. My husband is an infantryman. My daughter understands the importance of gun safety. She understands the stick is not a real weapon." Mrs. Miller said that she had to sit down with her daughter and explain why her make-believe fun was against school policy. Quote, "It was gut-wrenching for me. She's innocent. She's young. She should be 5 and have fun." Now, this 5-year-old actually served out her 1-day suspension, and now she actually kind of has a view into what wacky rules these liberals have implemented into our schools. It's just sad that now these liberals within our education system are equating a 5-year-old holding a stick to a firearm such as an AR-15 or something that is dangerous. This 5-year-old was having fun and didn't think that she was actually going to be threatening students, didn't think that she was going to be actually firing bullets from her stick. But apparently this school system believes that that's too dangerous, that that's triggering. This is something that has been going on for so long, this liberal indoctrination within our school system, and these different rules that have been implemented from elementary school all the way into college. You don't really see too many examples of elementary school kids getting stuff like this, but this is a very huge reminder that this liberal indoctrination within our education system goes all the way down to even elementary school. And that is frightening, folks. This is something that shouldn't have ever happened, this incident. This was just a kid playing around. We've all pretended that a stick was a gun at some point or another. And I guarantee even those people who are enforcing this rule did when they were kids. But now, as they've gotten older and been liberal for longer, it has affected their brain in a way that they can't comprehend that that is a stick instead of a gun. There was no danger present at this school, and the suspension was outrageous because now they're taking away from that child's education, all because someone might have gotten a little triggered that she was holding a stick. That is just sad that our education has ever gotten to that point. And it's definitely sad that even in our college campuses, we have these things called free speech zones. And now an LA college student is suing his actual school for allegedly curbing his free speech rights. Pierce College student Kevin Shaw, who is 27, he filed this lawsuit yesterday against the Los Angeles Community College District after he was barred from passing out copies of a document because he wasn't in the school's designated free speech zone, which measures a 616 square foot size area, which, if you don't know how that is, that's roughly the size of 3 parking spaces. He said, quote, "When I attempted to hand out copies of the Constitution that day, my only intention was to get students thinking about our founding principles and to inspire discussion of liberty and free speech. I had no idea I would be called upon to defend those very ideals against Pierce's unconstitutional campus policies. The fight is about a student's right to engage in free thinking and debate while attending college within America." Now, this was just before the general election when he was actually handing out these constitutions through the Young Americans for Liberty Club on campus, and he was doing it within the main quad. Pierce administrator told him he could not distribute the literature outside the designated zone. Shaw says that he was also told that he would have to fill out a permit application to use the free speech zone and would be asked to leave campus if he refused to comply. Now, this is sad because this free speech zone already is only about the size of 3 parking spaces, as I said. But secondly, your free speech does not stop when you walk onto a public university, because that's what this is. It does not stop when you walk onto college campus. Your free speech is something that is guaranteed to you by the Bill of Rights, by the Constitution. You cannot limit that free speech to a 616 square foot square. You can't do that. That is unconstitutional. And furthermore, he has to get a permit to use that right. This is unconstitutional, and this is something that is happening across our entire nation. We see this in not only small universities like this, small colleges like this, like Pierce College, but also in the huge universities such as UCLA or Berkeley or University of New York. All of these huge liberally indoctrinated college campuses have these small areas where you can go to express your free speech. But that's not what the First Amendment says. That's not what the First Amendment is for. You don't get that limited into a small box. The First Amendment guarantees your right to speak freely about issues that you want to talk about. Of course, there are some limitations in times of war and other things like that. You can't just yell fire in a movie theater. But there are no limitations when it comes to where you can use normal free speech, such as handing out a constitution. There's no limitation on that according to the Supreme Court. And there's no precedence of the Supreme Court saying that you can limit that. And I really do hope that this lawsuit goes all the way up to the Supreme Court. It makes its way through the appellate courts so they can get up to that. Because this is something that has to be decided sooner rather than later. Because these college campuses are essentially destroying the Constitution, essentially tearing it up, because they don't agree with what conservatives have to say. I would say it's what they don't agree with other viewpoints, but it's obvious that they are all liberal and they don't agree with conservatives. I guarantee if a liberal went onto the school campus was handing out things about how everyone should get an abortion, this school wouldn't stop it. There are countless examples of people going to college campuses to do stuff like that, where they're just trying to see what they stop. They hand out such like the Bill of Rights, and the college comes and stops them, but then they have one of their friends hand out stuff talking about how abortion is good or other liberal policies like that, and the university doesn't stop them. This is the liberal bias within our education system that has compounded upon itself for decades. This is something that has grown to the point where now they're limiting rights, where they're limiting where and when you can use your free speech, and they believe that you have to get a permit to use that free speech. This is something that must end, folks, and I talk about this liberal indoctrination a lot because it is a very rampant problem. This is a problem that has plagued our nation and will continue to plague our nation unless we speak up about it more. We see very little actually happening across the entire nation to try to stop this. We need more students such as Shaw here speaking up, actually filing these lawsuits, doing stuff like this against these unconstitutional college policies. Because the longer we allow them to exist, the longer and the more rights they are going to take away. The longer we allow these policies to exist, the more they're going to be able to get away with. We have to stop these universities from completely destroying college students' rights. Because right now, it seems like they're just going to keep curbing our rights on college campuses. And that is not constitutional, especially for public universities that are funded by the government. This is something that must be stopped. This is a rampant problem. We must find a solution to it sooner rather than later, folks. We must end this rampant liberal indoctrination in this nation. All right, that's all for today's episode of the Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. You can find me on youthrevolt.org. Go ahead and search Youth Revolt up on Facebook. You can find me at Instagram.com. Just at @the_wise_conservative, Springer.com/thewiseconservative. I'd like to once again thank you for tuning in, and as always, God bless.